Wesley Yates straight up stabs USC basketball in the back. Shohei Ohtani tests his elbow strength in a bullpen sesh. And after a week of spring practice, UCLA is still figuring out how to move beyond the screen pass. Good morning. I'm James. And this is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is April 6, 2025. Welcome back to the Sanctum Sanctorum of LA Sports. And it's on Sunday, the Lord's Day. So if you believe as I do, take a moment. Thank you for the blessings that you have in your life, like LA Sports. And if you like being in the know about LA, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. By all means, comment. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a quick look at the scoreboard. Dodgers 3, Philadelphia 1. The Dodgers' magic number has been lowered to 153. Kings 3, Edmonton 0. The Kings clinched a playoff berth on Saturday. James Harden scored 29 points to lead the Clippers to a 135-104 victory over Dallas. Meanwhile, both LA soccer teams aren't that good. Real Salt Lake 2, Galaxy 0. The Galaxy are butt naked last in the MLS Western Conference. Houston shut out LAFC 1-0. LAFC, by the way, I wouldn't go bragging too much. They're tied for the last playoff spot in the West. Meanwhile, today, the Dodgers are at Philadelphia. That game is at 10:35 in the morning, and the Lakers will play the Thunder at 12:30. What do you say we get to the news? When USC's hastily rebuilt basketball program was getting clobbered regularly in the Big Ten, if there was one thing that Eric Musselman and the Trojans thought they could count on, it would be guard Wesley Yates III. Why? Because Yates said so repeatedly. For example, the guard said of Musselman, quote, "I'm locked in here. We've just got to get through this season, taking it one game at a time. He has been helping me every day to become a better person, helping me become a better basketball player. You can see it translate on the court, the belief he has in me. I can't thank him enough for allowing me to be me and allowing me to grow as this individual," unquote. Moreover, when the season ended, Yates doubled down. "I promise we won't be in this position again. That's a fact." What commitment! What maturity! What a load of trash. Look, Yates entered the transfer portal Saturday, which, by the way, is the second time he's entered the portal. The first was to come to USC from Washington. Now, with the Trojans, he averaged 14 points per game. Had he stayed for next year, USC would have had a terrific three-guard setup. Yates III, Desmond Claude, and incoming recruit Elijah Arenas. And believe you me, had Yates not spoken so strongly about Musselman, so strongly about USC, I wouldn't be trashing him this much. I would just say, okay, he's going and it's going to sting. And believe you me, I recognize that players have the right to enter the transfer portal. I don't deny that. I don't begrudge it. But what I do begrudge with extreme prejudice is saying your coach is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then you come back and you're like, yeah, what I meant to say is my coach is sliced bread and I'm gluten intolerant. Big difference. Saying that you're locked in and then you throw a chair through the window so that you can escape and bypass the lock. You see, this really bothers me. It does. Not because of USC. Eric Musselman will wind up recruiting somebody to take his place. One of the things that define us as men, it's not whether we follow the advice of Andrew Tate. Look where that's getting him. It's not the manosphere. It's not how much beer we can drink or fights we think we can win. One of the things that define us as men is whether or not we can be trusted. It's not the only thing. There's emotional stability, there's the ability to provide, there's courage. But being reliable, being a man of your word is an essential thing. It's a must-have. So don't get me wrong. There will be some demand for a guy who averages double figures. But whoever that college is, buyer beware. You can't trust Wesley Yates. Meanwhile, there were some websites who took this news as a signal that the Trojans were in real trouble because of, so much instability, which is bizarre because if there's anything you can say to define collegiate athletics today, it's all unstable. It's totally unstable. So I wouldn't spill a bucket of chum in my Speedos and jump into a pool of piranha just yet. Look, USC did add Jacob Kofi, who is a 6'10 forward, played for Virginia last year, and he would have been the biggest player on the Trojans had he been on last year's roster. They topped out at 6'9". Now, as a freshman last season, Kofi averaged a little bit more than 7 points, so he's going to come in as a sophomore. I'm not going to sit there and claim that he is going to be what Ade Mara could have been for UCLA. But considering you had nobody taller than 6'9", basketball is still a sport where height makes right. So that's a good pickup. Prior to the Dodgers evening the series out in Philadelphia, Shohei Ohtani threw a 26-pitch bullpen sesh. He also threw split-fingered fastballs for the first time as part of this buildup. Now, this is super important for Ohtani and the Dodgers, in the sense that your fingers are as split as wide as if you were going to hold an iPhone between your index and your middle finger. Try it. Feel the strain on your forearm when you do. That is the ligament that gets replaced in Tommy John surgery, which is, of course, what Ohtani is recovering from. So if he could throw that on a somewhat regular basis and not feel discomfort, not feel pain, yeah, that's a step. It's a huge step. Now, having said that, there's still no timetable for Ohtani to return to actually pitching in a major league game. And obviously, the Dodgers, having about 9,000 starting pitchers to choose from, they don't feel in a particular need to rush things. Hunter Fiducia, meanwhile, was recalled to replace Freddie Freeman on the roster. I wouldn't expect too much from Fiducia because Freeman is eligible to be returning to the major leagues as soon as Friday. I presume that's after Freeman finishes adding padding all around his bathtub, but who am I? I want to preface this by saying I'm not forecasting into the future. I don't think we can draw any conclusions about the offense from the first week of UCLA spring football practice. Okay? This is not a conclusion. But here's the thing. I was reading this glowing feature article about new offensive coordinator Tino Sunseri in the LA Daily News. And the scribe is noting that the passing game was at its best with short passes, screens, stuff like that. When quarterback Joey Aguilar threw deep, though, he would get picked off. Now, Sunseri explained it by consulting his handbook of sports cliches, which is always helpful. I'm a former reporter. I get it. You need cliches when you don't want to tell the truth. So what Sunseri said is, quote, "What we're doing is we're taking what the defense is giving us. The biggest thing that these quarterbacks have to be able to learn in college football is that you need to be needy, not greedy," unquote. So this is why I feel compelled to tap the brakes on UCLA football. Do you remember what UCLA was working on toward the end of last year's training camp? Do you? Because I can tell you what they were doing. Under Eric Bieniemy, in the last waning moments of training camp, they were working on screens and short passes. That was according to the LA Times. And then, of course, the Bruins, they go out and they lay about 300 rotten eggs all over Hawaii's field, and it was totally obvious that UCLA's offense was going to be an abomination all year long. So again, I'm not saying we should draw conclusions. I am saying be wary. If UCLA can't figure out how to throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field toward the end of training camp, that's a red flag. Back to USC. You know, Snoop Dogg hasn't had a hit song since Drop It Like It's Hot 20 years ago. 20 years. And yet, you can't stop seeing him all over the place. He's at every LA sporting event, which is fine. You see him in commercials, you see him in movies. You don't see him really rapping anymore. And now, because that's not enough, you're seeing him on the recruiting trail for USC. Recruiting players who weren't born when Drop It Like It's Hot was a thing. So Deshaun Rideau, the number 5 running back in the recruiting class of 2026, said he is going to USC, and he cited Snoop as a reason that he is staying in state to play for the Trojans. And I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that this whole thing feels a little weird. Because I was reading quotes from his family, and they're not mentioning all the great things that he could do in Lincoln Riley's offense. He's not talking about Heismans. He's not talking about touchdowns. All they mentioned was fan bases, off-field exposure, and brand building. I mean, don't get me wrong. The scouting report says that the player is legit, both in terms of taking on defenders between the tackles and as a receiver. But it's weird. There's just something about teenagers and or their parents who think brand building is a primary focus. I mean, we're not even talking anymore about whether or not a player is going to get an education. Even that lip service that we didn't really believe, we're not hearing a thing about that. And now we're not even hearing about whether or not this kid actually wants to play football. Whether he wants to go to the NFL. He wants to build a brand? Like, yeah, coach, I can't practice. I got to go hang out with Snoop. We're dropping tracks. What? I don't like it. I could be wrong. Maybe it's his family that's all worried about the brand building. Maybe the player doesn't feel like talking because, there he is in the back, running Oklahoma drills or something like that. But football is a sport where you want 11 different people to function as one. That just doesn't sound like he's that type of guy. It sounds like a guy who would split USC and go to Clemson the moment that Dabo Swinney attempts Megan Thee Stallion's Savage Dance on TikTok. The LA Kings no longer have a prospect pool that is deep enough to drown the cast of My 600-Pound Life. But the Athletic still believes there's a player or two who can cut it in the NHL. They are really, really high on goalie Hampton Slikinski, who still plays for Western Michigan University. His work in the net has led the team to its first NCAA Frozen Four. The dude has a 1.92 goals against average and a save percentage of .923. Now, don't get me wrong, they're not saying he's an absolute sure thing. If there's one thing that the Kings have left in their minor leagues, it's multiple goalie prospects. Carter George is absolutely a possibility, for example. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me about the state of USC basketball because of Wesley Yates not being a man of his word. And for that matter, are you feeling optimistic about Shohei Ohtani now that he's throwing the split-fingered fastball again? And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We are talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Portel Queso production. Take care.